Hi guys, it's Mrs. Wood. I wanted to just jump right in today and get started talking about fairy tales. So yesterday we read the book Jack and the Beanstalk, and we added to our circle map all the things that we could think of that were true about fairy tales. We said that they had magic. We said they had characters who were good and evil, that there were usually animals, and you guys came up with some really great ideas. So I went ahead and I made a new chart that is going to show us all of the things that fairy tales have. So here we can see the things that fairy tales have. They have good and evil characters. All fairy tales have a setting. Fairy tales also have a problem and a solution. They have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And we already talked about this one. Fairy tales have magic. So these are the things that we're going to be talking about over the next several days that fairy tales have. Today we're going to focus on the characters. There are good characters and there are evil characters. So let's look at Jack and the Beanstalk and decide who we think the good characters are and who the evil characters would be. So we read Jack and the Beanstalk yesterday, and we saw that there was a mother and there was Jack. Now, Jack is the main character in this story. I know that because he's on most of the pages and most of the book talks about him. So do we think that Jack is a good character or an evil character? Right. I would agree that Jack is a good character. What about his mother? Would she be a good character or an evil character? Right. I would also agree that his mother is a good character. So as we go throughout, we see this man who sells him the beans. Now, what do you think about the man? Do you think he's a good character or an evil character? Hmm. I heard some people say both. Some of you think maybe he's a good character because he gave Jack these beans that eventually gave him all of the money and the gold, right? But some of you said he was an evil character, and maybe you're thinking this because he sold him these beans, and if Jack wouldn't have been lucky, he may have been eaten. So that one, it just kind of depends on how you see the story. So I want you to shout it out. Who do you think the evil character is in Jack and the Beanstalk? Right. The evil character is the giant. The giant is the evil character. So I have this chart right here that we're going to be working on for the next several weeks, and it's called fairy tales. In the first column, it says the name of the tale. Then it tells us about the characters, and it says good and evil. We see setting, problem and solution, beginning, middle, and end, and magic. So as we learn about this fairy tale and others, we're going to see how they have all of these things. If it doesn't have all these things, then it's not a fairy tale. So we just said that the name of our tale was Jack and the Beanstalk. And who was the main good character? Right, it was Jack. And who was the evil character? Right, it was the giant. So I went ahead and I added these to our chart. Jack and the Beanstalk is the name of the tale. The good character is Jack, and the evil character is the giant. So I have a couple other fairy tales here that we're going to look at. Here is Cinderella. How many of you have ever read Cinderella or seen the movie Cinderella? Raise your hand. Oh, that's a lot of you. Cinderella is a fairy tale that has been told over and over and over. Now, this is the Disney version of Cinderella, the one most of you have probably seen and are familiar with. So I'm just going to review the story of Cinderella to remind you, and maybe for some of you that have never read it. So Cinderella was a girl. She lived with a stepmother and stepsisters because her father died when she was young. But the stepmother and stepsisters were very mean to her. They made her do all of their chores. They made her sweep the floor. and she never got to do anything fun, but the stepsisters were allowed to do everything. So one day the prince said he was going to have a ball. Cinderella really wanted to go, but her stepmother said she couldn't because she had to do chores. So she found an old dress and she made the dress, but then they tore it apart, and soon they were on their way to the ball and she was left at home. So she got really sad. But then a magical fairy godmother came and made her a beautiful dress, turned a pumpkin into her stagecoach, helped her get ready so that she could go to the ball. And she fell in love with the prince. She lost her shoe on the way home, and eventually he came and he found her, and they were married and they lived happily ever after. So, who do you think the good character is in this story? Right. The good main character would be Cinderella. But the evil character is who? Yes, I agree. Her stepmom and maybe even her stepsisters. Those are the evil characters. So I just put stepmom up here since we're looking for one right now. But that's the story of Cinderella. There are good and evil characters in it. That means it's on its way to being a fairy tale. I have one more story that you are probably familiar with, and it's the story of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. And in this story, Snow White lives in a castle with her father, who is the king, and her stepmother. And one day her father dies, and that means that the queen is left to raise her. But the queen is so jealous of Snow White, and she decides that she's going to try and have someone kill her. So she gets banished out, but she finds this little family of dwarfs and she starts staying there. But the evil queen still did not like Snow White. She was afraid that people were going to like her more. So she decided to put a spell on an apple, and that when Snow White ate that apple, she fell into a deep sleep. And a prince had to come and kiss her to wake her up. And then she lived happily ever after with the prince. So, in this story, who is the good character? Right, the good character is Snow White. Who would the evil character be? Very good. The evil character would be the evil queen. So what we're going to do over the next couple weeks, we're going to keep looking at these 3 stories and even some others, and we're going to find out who the characters are, the settings, problem solution, beginning, middle, end, and magic. So what I want you to do today is I want you to get in your packet, and you're going to have a chance to tell me some of the good and evil characters. So in your week 5, day 2 packet, there are 2 pages that you need to do. One looks like this. It has a camera on it and it has a bunch of character cards. And the other also has a camera and it says good and evil characters. So what you're going to do is you're going to color all of these characters. Some of them are good characters, some of them are evil. And then you're going to cut out on the dotted lines. Then you're going to sort them. If you think that it's a good character, you're going to put it on this side. If you think it's an evil character, you're going to put it on this side. Now, you may have to turn them sideways to get them to fit, or put 2 or 3 next to each other. Just do your best to make them fit over there. We had to put it on regular size paper instead of bigger paper like I normally would do. So you're going to separate those into good and evil characters. So some of the characters, I won't go through all of them, but some of them that are on here, we have a knight, we have the Wicked Witch of the West, we have an evil queen, we have a fairy, a king, a princess. So you look at those and decide if you think they are a good character in a story you've heard, or if they are an evil character. Once you have them cut out and sorted and glued on here, you're going to take a picture of this and upload it to Dojo. And then we're going to decide if we agree if those are good or evil characters. So, tomorrow we're going to look at the next part of fairy tales and see how they are all the same. See you later.